let's go over a hands-on activity that will allow us to practice navigating directories and finally code a program. All right, this video is going to be general enough for Windows and Mac folks. Okay, I wanted to practice directory navigation. So let's go ahead and open up our terminal. On Windows, you want to search up WSL. And once again, I recommend clicking on this apps option. Right? But both of these are the same, but the second one will open it in the correct directory. Right, we'll talk about that in just a bit. Anyways, on Windows, load up WSL right there, and you should see a tilde right here. On Mac, it already comes with a terminal. You just want to search it up. I think on Mac OS there's a search button on the top right, and then you can just type in terminal. Okay, once you have the terminal set up, let's go ahead and practice some navigation and creating different folders. Okay, the first command I wanted to show is a command that opens up your file explorer. On Windows, you can type in explorer.exe space dot. Right, this space dot is important. It's telling it to load up this application in the current working directory. Right, the current working directory is wherever this is at. All right, so let's see where we're at right now. So explorer.exe space dot, enter. Okay, so we are here. Let me just zoom in a bit. View. Okay, here, you know, I'm just gonna zoom in a bunch. So this is the folder we're at. Right, we are here. Right, in this bar right here, it shows us the path of where the WSL is working in. And on Mac, you can type in open space dot. It's gonna do the same thing. It's gonna open up a folder. Okay, so this is what we're working with. Let's go ahead and practice some things right here. Like, let's practice organizing a workflow. In this course, it might be useful to organize certain files in certain folders. For example, here we see two big folders, right? Like we see a folder called assignments and another big folder called examples. However, we can see in this assignments folder, it consists of two other folders, right? 0 and then assignment 1, which consists of files inside of it. So here, let's get used to some of these directory, and let's go ahead and create it. Okay. This folder here on the left is going to allow us to visualize what we're going to type in here. Now, these are actually hidden files. They all start with a period, so you might not see them. Right? If you don't see them, you can enable it. It's somewhere here in the properties, I think. No, it's not properties. I think it's view, show, hidden items. Oh, okay, I guess I don't have to enable anything. Anyways, let's go ahead and do the first command. Right, so the first navigation command I wanted to show is called ls. Right, ls is short for list. So I'm gonna go here, type in ls for list, and then enter. Okay, you see how it didn't show anything? It just went to the next prompt. It didn't show anything because these are actually hidden files. They start with a period. If you wanted to list the hidden files, you can give it some arguments. I think it's a dash a. Right, ls-a for list all, and then enter. And then there we go. You see how it's listing all of these files that we have here, right? It's just listing all of the all the hidden ones. Typically I use ls-la, which stands for list format, and then all, right? But basically list format will put it line by line, and which makes it, gives it more detail. Okay, anyways, for this class, you're probably only going to be using ls with no arguments. All right, so just ls and then enter, and it shows nothing. Okay, so that's one command. It just shows all the shows the contents in that directory. Let's go ahead and make a directory. It's a good idea to be organized instead of storing everything in one place. Right, like maybe we want to have some sort of hierarchical organization, like visualized here. So let's go ahead and make a directory. Right, there is a command called mkdir. That stands for make directory. So let me pull both these up. So on the terminal here, I'm gonna type in make directory mkdir, and then I'm gonna type in the name of the folder that I want to name it. Right, for this, I'm just gonna name it CS-11 with no spaces. Right, it's important to have no spaces, otherwise it would treat it as two different things. So CS-11, and then I'm gonna go ahead and press enter. Okay, there we go. Press enter. What happened on the left? Well, it didn't show anything. We're gonna have to refresh it. So let me refresh this file explorer real quick. So refresh, there we go. You see this brand new folder, right? That's what we just did, right? We just made a directory right here. Okay, so let's do the next command. Let's navigate into it. On the left, we can navigate into it just by, double clicking, right? But how do we do it on the terminal? Right, the terminal, we can navigate into it by using this command cd. Right, cd stands for change directory. So I'm gonna go ahead and use that command right there. Okay, so cd, and then the name of the directory we want to go into. Right, in this case, it's CS-11. Okay, now I'm gonna press enter. Okay, there we go. All right, you see how the prompt changed here? Right, instead of a tilde, it's showing tilde and then CS-11. This is representing the path that the terminal is working in. Right, well, the cd CS-11 is the same as double clicking into this folder. Right, so there we go. We double clicked into this folder, and we can do an ls command again. Right, let's go ahead and list. So I'm gonna ls list. Okay, there's nothing here, which makes sense. Right? This folder is empty. Let's go ahead and populate it. Let's try to make a structure that looks like this. Right, one big folder that says that's called assignments, and another big folder called examples. Okay, so let's make two directories then. Right, one directory is going to be called assignments. Right, mkdir for make directory. Okay, make their assignments. Enter. And let me just refresh this. There we go. We have a brand new folder called assignments. And let's make another one called examples. Examples, and then refresh. There we go. Now we have two folders here. Okay, great. We can verify this in the terminal by typing ls. Right, so ls and then enter. There we go. We see two folders. Right, earlier it was empty, but now there's two more. Okay, the reason why I wanted to create these two is just to be more organized. In class, we're going to be doing a lot of coding demonstrations, and it's probably appropriate to store it in the examples folder. As for the assignments, it's probably a good idea to store them as separate folders inside of your assignments. Okay, so here let's kind of do a recap. Right, I'm gonna exit all of this. Okay, so I'm exiting all of this. There we go. All we did so far was some terminal commands that practice creating directories and navigating through them. We covered a few of these right here. So let's go ahead and redo it. All right, let's go ahead and load up your terminal again. Okay, there it is. I loaded up my terminal. Okay. Notice that when we load up the terminal, it's in the default directory tilde. Tilde actually represents the home directory. It's if you're curious, you can use this command called pwd, which stands for print working directory. Right, so the command line is currently working in this folder right here. Right? And if you want to visualize it, you can open up the file explorer space dot. Right? Once again, on Mac, it's going to be open space dot. Okay, this is going to help us visualize what's in this directory. Right, so this is where we're at. We can type in ls to see what's going on. Right, there is a non-hidden folder here called CS-11. We can go ahead and cd into it, right, which is the same as double clicking into it. So cd into CS-11, enter. Okay, so that's like going to here, and then we can do an ls again to see what's here. Okay, let's examples. Let's go into examples. So cd examples. By the way, there's a cool shortcut we can do here. There's a tab autocomplete, meaning if we give it a hint and then press tab, it's gonna autocomplete it for us. Okay, just a quick pro tip. Okay, enter. Okay, sweet. So now we're inside of CS-11 and then examples. Okay. I mean, you can verify the working directory if you want. You don't have to. I'm gonna type in pwd to print the working directory and then enter. And then yeah, we're inside of pretty much this right here, right? We're inside of this folder. Okay, great. Oh, and then one more is to navigate backwards. Right, sometimes you want to go back a folder, right? Like in the terminal, how would you do this right here? Right, so actually here on the left side, right, how would I go back? Well, on the terminal, you can type in cd space dot dot, which means change directory backwards, right? Dot dot means go back. So I'm gonna press enter here, and there we go. You see how it went backwards? We're no longer in examples. Right, we can do a list here, and then it shows that we see these two folders. Okay, so I would give it a bit of practice. So far, all we did was practice navigating and creating folders. Okay, let's move on to creating our first Hello World program. So we're gonna use a text editor for this. In this class, we have something called VS Code. And there are a couple different ways we can load up VS Code. Right? One way is you can just search it up and load it from here. All right, so that's one way. If you're on Windows, very important, make sure that this VS Code is integrated with WSL. All right, once again, this is for Windows folks. Mac, you don't have to do anything. But on Windows, you're gonna want to look on this bottom left corner and verify that it's connected to WSL. Right? It's not. So I'm gonna click on this blue button, right? And then on here, I'm gonna connect to WSL. This is gonna integrate the environment with our text editor. Okay, cool. So we can verify it's connected if it says WSL Ubuntu on the bottom left. Another way you can verify is by going to this file explorer here, right? So on the top left, file explorer, I'm gonna go ahead and open a folder, right? This is like saying, hey, where do you want to edit your code at? Right, well, let's edit the code in the examples directory. Right? This is where a lot of our coding demonstrations will be in. So I'm gonna click on open folder, and then here, it's giving us some folders. I'm gonna go into CS-11. Right, this is a folder that we created earlier. So CS-11, and then press OK. And yes, I trust the authors. Okay, cool. So now let me zoom in a bit. Okay. On the left, we see this file explorer. We already created these two files here, right? Assignments and examples. So let's go ahead and work in the examples directory. So I'm going to go into the examples here. Okay, and then let's create a oh, I gotta back up a bit. I forgot to address the Mac folks. So for the Mac folks earlier, you didn't have to connect to WSL. All you really have to do is go on File Explorer on the top left and then just open up the folder that you created. Okay, so here let's go through another way actually. You know, before we code our first example, I wanted to show another way of launching VS Code. All right, so earlier we did just search it up. Right, we just searched up VS Code and then enter, and then yeah, there we go. We're all loaded in. All right, this is one way of loading it. And yeah, make sure you're, for Windows folks, you're running in WSL. Another way you can load VS Code is you can do it through the terminal. All right, you can go to your terminal here, Windows CS-11 for Linux, and you can actually just CD into it first. So here, let me exit these things. So you can actually just CD into CS-11 first, and then let me just list to make sure we're in the. Okay, cool. You can actually load up application VS Code by typing in code space dot. All right, this says load up VS Code in the current working directory. Enter, and there we go. Right, it's just another way you can load it. Okay, let's do our first programming example. All right, let's go over the typical development pipeline for creating programs. Okay. So the typical pipeline is launching your code editor and verifying that VS Code is inside the correct folder. We already did that. We can verify here by looking at the top left of VS Code and seeing we're in the right folder. Okay, finally, we're going to repeat these steps a bunch to write code. Right? The reason why these are repeated is because typically programs aren't written in one shot. They're typically written in a continuous manner. Right? Write, save, and then test. Right? And then if it's not working, then go back to step 3. Right? Rewrite it, make some edits, and then save it again, and then test it again. Right, so these will be repeated a bunch. Okay, so let's go ahead and write our first C++ program. So in the VS Code, you can go into examples. Right, this is where the demonstrations are going to be, and then you can go ahead and create a new file here. So I'm going to click on New File right here, and then I'm going to call this file hello.cpp. This .cpp is important in the end. It'll tell the computer that we're working with a C++ file, meaning that the compiler will be able to translate it correctly. Okay, there we go. So I just created it. Let me exit this. Oh, it looks like there's some extensions here. So let me just cancel all of those. I'm just gonna say don't show. We don't really need those extensions. Okay. We're inside of a blank text file. Well, let's go ahead and write our first program. So I'm gonna skip over some of this. I'm gonna skip over the explanation of these lines of code. But we're gonna explain it in class. But let's go ahead and write our first program, C++ program. So I'm gonna include a library called IOStream, and then I'm gonna do another line that says using namespace standard. Once again, I'm not really gonna explain this in this video, but later on in class, we'll go into detail on what this is. All right, for now, we just want to write our first program and make sure it compiles. Right, this way we can verify that our environment is working fine. Okay, and then let's go ahead and write a function. It's called a main. All right, this is called a main function. Make sure you get these parentheses in here, and then these curly braces. These curly braces represent the body of the function. Right? In this case, we're using the main function, which is the first thing to be run, right? The first function to be run in the program. Okay, we'll go over what these parentheses and curly braces mean later, but yeah, all you really need to know is that this is a function. And inside the body of the function, I'm gonna do a statement, a printing statement. So in C++, one way we can print to output is with the cout. Cout stands for character out. And I'm gonna go ahead and do 2 left arrows. This is like a direction. It's saying that the things to the right will go into the output. And so the things to the right, I'm gonna do a hello world in double quotes. And then don't forget these double quotes here. These double quotes signify that this text is treated as like a literal, right? It's not treated like a variable. It's treated as a plain text. Okay, we'll talk about that later. And then finally, I'll do another set of arrows because I'm going to add in something called a new line. Right, end line, ENDL. Okay, and then don't forget the semicolon. In C++, statements are separated by semicolons. Okay, so there we go. Let's go ahead and save it now. So where are we in the pipeline? Okay, we wrote a C++ program. Let's go ahead and save it. Okay, this is actually very important. A lot of folks forget to save. And you can tell by this circle here, right? This white circle here means that there are unsaved changes. So I'm gonna go ahead and save it. Go here and then save, or you can do Control S or Command S. Those are just keyboard shortcuts. Okay, make sure you save it. Okay, we saved it. Now let's test it. Okay, let's test it. And for a visualization, we are gonna do this box right here. Right? We wrote code. Now we're gonna look into the terminal and compile the program, right? Translate the code into a program, and then finally verify that it works as intended. Okay, so let's do that. We need to load up the environment, the terminal environment. Right, one way we can do that is you can just load up WSL right here, this apps option. And if you're on Mac, once again, just load up the regular terminal. And then very important, make sure that we are in the examples directory. Right, you see how here, if I do an ls, right, we're not inside of the examples directory yet. We gotta cd into it. So let's cd into it, CS-11, enter. I usually like to type in ls a bunch to make sure to see what's there. So ls and then examples, and then cd into examples, enter, and then do another ls. And there we go, right? We see the file that we just wrote. Okay, the file we wrote is called hello.cpp. Let's go ahead and compile it, right? So compile means to translate it to machine code that we can run. The compiler that we have in this class is called G++. So you can type in G++ and then space and then hello.cpp. Okay, this is gonna translate it. So enter, and then if everything went fine, then there should be no error messages. Okay, so this actually created a program, right? Check this out. So type in ls, right? You see this brand new file here, right? a.out. Right? You can see this in the folder as well. Right, see, let me just open up the folder real quick. So explorer.exe space dot. Right, you see this brand new file here? Right, this is what the compiler made for us. It translated this source code into an executable that can run on our computer. Okay, so let's go ahead and run it. Okay, one way we can run it is by typing in /a.out. If you're curious what this means, / means to invoke. It's a terminal command. It says invoke the a.out program. Okay, so invoke that, enter, and yeah, it should say hello world. Okay. Hello world is a analogy to make sure that our environment is working as intended. So hopefully people were able to compile and run it. Okay, so let's kind of go over what we did. We wrote source code in VS Code. We used the terminal to compile, and then we ran the program and then verified that it works. Right? We verified because it did print hello world. There are some things that we should repeat. Now remember the pipeline here, right? Repeat steps 3 to 5. Typically, we want to update the program, right? Like we're usually building the program slowly, right? But typically, you don't type it all out and then compile and then run. Like imagine you're writing a very large program, right? You're gonna have to repeat these steps multiple times. Right? You're gonna have to build it, test it, right? Update it, and then retest it, and then update it again. So let's say we're upgrading the program, right? Let's say we're adding in some other feature. In this case, I'm just gonna add in another print statement. Right, so here I'm gonna add in like, how are you? And then another end line. So now we have 2 print statements. Okay, so here's the part where folks might forget to do. Folks might forget to save a file. Right, so what we just did was update the program. Right, we went to the text editor, made some changes. We need to save it again. Right, the reason why we need to save it is because this executable, right, this a.out executable, this was created before we updated the program. Right, so we need to save this text file. So let's save it again. Save, and then let's recompile. Right, we need to recompile it, right? Meaning we need to recreate this a.out file. Right, this is the old a.out file. So let's recreate it. Once again, the compile command is g++, and then hello.cpp. Okay, enter, and then hopefully we get no error messages. Okay, let's test the program again. So the way we do that is by invoking that executable. Right? Once again, this creates an a.out file. It'll rewrite it and update it. So I'm going to rerun it. /a.out. I should say, hello world, how are you? Okay. We just went over the typical development pipeline. Hopefully people are okay with that. So yeah, all we did was edit text or edit code on this left side, and then we used the terminal environment to compile and run it. A quick tip for the future, you actually don't need to have these 2 separate windows open. The VS Code, you can actually open up in a terminal right here, right? So just go into VS Code, you can actually go here, click on terminal and then new terminal. All right, there we go, right? It's, whoops. I don't know what's up with these extensions. I accidentally clicked something. I don't want to ask a question here. How do I get rid of this? Let me see. I'm just going to restart this terminal. Okay, there we go. So this terminal is the same as what we had earlier. Right? This is the same. You just want to make sure that you're in the right directory. Right? Like right now, if I do an ls, right, we're not really inside the right directory. Right? We were inside of the examples earlier. So you can go cd into examples, enter, do an ls, and there we go. We're inside the right directory. The reason why we want to be inside the right directory is so we can compile correctly. right? Like let's say we're inside of the wrong directory. Right, so let me just go backwards. Right, so cd space dot dot. This says go backwards. So I'm gonna go backwards, right? And then do an ls. Right, see how we're outside of the examples folder. Or if we were to compile, right, like g++ hello.cpp, right, this is saying, hey, I want to compile this file. But then when I press enter, it's going to say, oh, fatal error. Right, fatal error, no such file or directory. And that's because, yeah, that's because we're not inside of the right folder. So if you get this error, most likely we're not inside of the right directory. So let's fix that. cd change directory into examples and then enter. And then let's try it again. All right, g++ hello.cpp, enter. Okay, cool. There's no error messages, and we can go ahead and run it. So /a.out. And hello world, how are you? Okay, hopefully people are okay with that. So that's about it for now. We just did a hands-on activity for navigating, creating directories, and then the typical pipeline of developing. I recommend practicing this again because you're going to be using these commands quite a bit. Okay, thank you all. See you later.